In this video, I'm taking a unique piece of tattoo flash by Matt Truiano and showing you how to ethically and quickly transform it into a neo-traditional tattoo using Procreate. I'm Russ Abbott, and you're about to learn the fastest route from sketch to skin. Before we dive into the Procreate tutorial, let's set the stage. I've been inspired by Matt Truiano's work for a while now, especially through his Honest Tattooer podcast with John Mesa. They cover all aspects of tattoo shop life and the business, and you can catch their insightful conversations on major streaming platforms or watch them on YouTube each week. Also, don't forget to check out Matt's Instagram, Matt Truiano, to see his exceptional approach to neo-traditional tattoos. Last year, Tattoo Smart and Matt collaborated on the Truiano Neotrad flash stamp set, which became one of our best sellers. Riding on that success, we recently brainstormed our latest project, Neotrad Florals. So in today's video, I'll be using one of Matt's hibiscus designs from this upcoming set to demonstrate my process for creating quick value studies and color renderings in Procreate. As we wrap up this Procreate tutorial, I've got a surprise. I'll be meeting with none other than Matt Truiano. During this meeting, I'll present my rendition of his work for his critique. This isn't just any critique session though. Depending on Matt's feedback, I might tweak my design right there and then, allowing you to witness the evolution of a tattoo design in real time. We might even do an A/B comparison to showcase the changes, or who knows, Matt might simply love it as is. Either way, you'll get an exclusive look into a collaborative process between two tattoo artists, so make sure to stay till the end for this unique interaction with Matt Truiano. Now we're diving into the core of our Procreate tutorial. First, we'll create a canvas, a new canvas, the right size for tattoo design, so just tap the plus sign. I always like to choose inches instead of pixels because I want to do a 8x10 canvas. It's just smaller than a regular sheet of paper. I think it's a good place to start for most tattoo designs, although I can work on bigger canvases from time to time depending on what I'm doing. I want to make sure that I've got this DPI here set to 300, so if it's not at 300, change that. And depending on how new your iPad is, you'll have a different number of maximum layers here. If this number is too low, it might be time to upgrade your iPad, because you really want to work at 300 DPI at the size that the ultimate tattoo design is going to be printed. So just go ahead and click Create here, and you have a new canvas at 8x10 inches. So one of the first things that I'm always going to do is change the background color. The standard color of white is just a little bit too bright for me to work on because I want to choose some kind of background color that's about the same as the skin tone that I'm going to be tattooing on. Now I have this skin tone palette here, which is something that Tattoo Smart offers with some of our model humans 3D models and also our protoplast kit. I'm going to choose a skin tone here, and you can always go back and change that just by clicking on background color and cycling through different options. So we'll just go with this one for now. I've got the artwork saved here in my Procreate gallery, so I'm just going to click Add, Insert a Photo, and here is the line drawing. So this is what Matt created, and he's already made some really good choices about the line weight here. You've got a few different line weights featured. So once you get it put into place where you want it, just tap that arrow and it's locked in. So now you've got your outline in this layer 1, and you've got your background color. If you want to go ahead and keep your layers really nice and clean, you can rename this. So we'll call it Lines. All right, perfect. So when we add color, we want to add color in a new layer. So any values or color are going to be in a separate layer from the lines. And it's a good idea to get in the habit of moving the layer below. So the layer that contains our values will be below the lines, because we want the lines to sit on top in case the values kind of can spread a little wider than the outline at times and make the lines look a little bit weird. So if you ever notice that happening, it might be because you need to move your value and color layers below your line layer. Now we can go ahead and choose from values that we already have set aside as palettes. You may not have something like this in Procreate already, but I will leave a link in the description where you can pick up this set here, which is just a set of different values in neutral, warm, and cool grays. So today I'm just going to play with we'll do the warm grays here. And I'm going to select something right in the middle here, and you can see that now that color is here. In the standard color picker, it's kind of a orange color, but just over here on the gray side. So you can see that it's kind of a warm gray. And so from this view, you can see I've got my palette here and I've got this. So if you don't have this palette yet, you can just kind of move this thing around over here on the gray side. Find something kind of right in the middle. It's a good place to start. So I'll start with that. And first we have color drop, right? But if you do this, if you just drop color in and it spreads everywhere, then you're missing. So 2-finger tap to undo, and I'll show you how to make the color drop stay within the lines. So that's the first lesson here. And this is a really cool thing that everyone should be using. So go to your line layer and then tap on the layer, and it opens up this menu, and choose where it says reference. And now you can see the word reference right here on the line layer. So what this does is it means that anytime I do a color drop, it's going to look at, so this is what you don't want to do. You want to make sure you drop your color in the value layer. So this should work. So now I'm in the value layer, I drop the color, and the color is here in the value layer and not in the line layer. But it looked at the line layer to know where to put the color. Great. And so this is kind of the foundation of this method that we're going to use to get through this value study really quickly. Let me just go ahead and clear that out, and we're back to where we started. So we've got the lines set with reference. Remember, that was tap here, choose reference. It should say reference right here. You've got a value layer that's directly underneath the line layer. And now we have a couple of different ways we can do this. One would be to just start color dropping, and then you can hit continue filling, and you can go through and you can put that gray everywhere you want it really, really fast, even in these small little spaces here. Now you might find when you go to do this that it doesn't work so great for you. I'm going to show you what the fix is for that problem. So here's the problem. So when you drop your colors in, if you're seeing little bits of ugly pixels on the edges, kind of like this, the correction is to adjust the threshold of your color drop. So just after you tap drop, up here it will say threshold, and you can drag to the right or the left. You pretty much want to raise it up as far as you can without it jumping out of the lines that you're in. So here's 100% threshold, and it doesn't stay where it's supposed to be. But if I lower it down a little bit, then we should be good. Now see, I'm tapping, but it's jumping over these little lines, so it's still a little bit high. So we want it to stay within the section that it's supposed to stay in. So right here, currently, I've got threshold set around 69. Seems to be working pretty good. So that's the trick. If you start doing these color drops and it doesn't behave the way you want, like it has kind of an ugly looking edge, it doesn't fill it all the way into the points, then you need to adjust that threshold, okay? So now that I've got that set, and you understand that you can just start color dropping, click continue filling, and keep going, filling in all the values, and you understand how to adjust threshold right here until it behaves the way you want it to. Let's back out of that for a second. Now I'm just going to start, and I'm going to use a different technique though. This is even faster. So over here in the selection tool, looks like an S, you want to make sure you select automatic and add, and then color fill needs to be on. With color fill on, you don't even have to drag the color over from here. You can just start tapping. Now, before I hit the S, I can go back to here and I can actually choose different colors until I like what I see there. I think we'll go with something like that to start. And let's just add a few more little bits. I think that's everything. Okay, so now with that done, I've got all of that surface of the petals colored in. I can make a new layer, and I can start to add shading and adjust this just like this. So if I choose a darker gray, then come over here to my brush kit that I've got and just choose a soft airbrush. Even the stock Procreate soft airbrush will do this. Okay, that's not exactly what we're looking for, but with a new layer on top of values, if I click here and then select clipping mask, it's going to lock that in to everything in the layer directly below, so I can freely color on top of that. So try this, make a pretty big airbrush, and then you can choose a lighter value and you can start to add some shading around, little highlights around the edge. So that's one simple way to approach this. But what I like to do is start with some selections. So taking the color fill out, I can go back in here and reselect areas that I want to mess with. Right? And then getting back to that darker value in the airbrush. Now I can just isolate it to where I needed it. I'll go ahead and go all the way to black here. Very cool. And now let's get some highlights in there. Still using the soft airbrush. Maybe I'd like to highlight right through the middle there. Let's go ahead and just select this guy by itself. Pop a little bit of light right there. Like that, okay. Okay, so at this point I've got all the values laid out and I'm pretty happy with the way the value plan looks. So I want to add some color so that I can quickly see how it's actually going to work as a tattoo. With this method, choosing colors is really quick, and I'm going to show you how to do this right now, so check it out. First thing I'm going to do is just take all of these different layers that I've got going on with my values separated here, and to make it easy, I'll just pinch and put them all on one layer. So I've still got all my lines on one layer and all of my value study on one layer. The next step, we'll quickly rename this values again. So the next step is going to be to add another layer on top, and with this layer we're going to rename that to red. This is going to be for the reddish colors in this part of the flower. Now I could go ahead and choose any red here and just start color dropping, hit continue filling, and you could just add red in everywhere. Now with this, obviously doesn't look so great. What we want to do is go back to this layer with the red on it, tap this little N here, and we're going to change the layer blending mode, cycle through all of these and see what they do. But the one that works really well for this is called overlay. So with overlay highlighted here, you can see now we have a tiny O here where the N used to be, and that's how you know that you have it set to overlay. So what's really happening here is that the reds are above the values but they're set to overlay blending mode, so you can still see the values underneath. If we turn the values off, then we just have it overlaying on top of the background color here. So it's a really cool way, super fast, much faster than having to figure out exactly which tones of red, which tints of red you want to use. And we can still adjust this even more later. So we'll just keep going, color drop, continue filling. That's it for the reds. Now let's switch to the greens. Green. Easy enough. Tap the N, switch to overlay. Choose a new color, something kind of green, doesn't really matter. We'll say that. Continue filling. And then one new layer for the stamen and the pistil. Something kind of yellow might work. Set to overlay layer blending mode, like this. Choose yellow. I missed. Gotta aim a little better than that. Continue filling. Great. Now, after doing this, we have quite a few options. We can go back and adjust these different layers and change the colors. So that green's looking a little bit too bright to me. So highlighting the green layer, I'm going to go over here and select this magic wand tool and then go with hue, saturation, and brightness. So first I'll move the hue around, and you can see that green is changing to different tones. Different hues, basically. Maybe we want to go with something a little bit more like that. If we want to make it less intense, we can dial down the saturation a bit. Maybe something there. And then we can mess with the brightness and the value of the green until we like it there. I kind of like how that looks. But I would like to introduce some other colors into this green, so it's not just straight green. What we'll try here is going to duplicate this layer. So now there's two of these, and we'll turn the first one off, and we're just going to adjust the hue, saturation, and brightness of this layer to make it a little bit more like kind of tealish, like that. And now we've got an option that's more teal and an option that's more green. If you stack the two together, they combine. So what we can do here is we can erase one of them out. We need an airbrush that's soft. Let's try that again. Is it erasing? Okay. I'm confused. So this overlay blending mode might be part of the reason I'm not getting what I want. So let's try changing the layer blending mode of the top layer and see all the different things that can happen. Kind of like what multiply is doing here. It's kind of nice. So let's back that up a little bit before I erased. Now we'll set this one to multiply. Maybe even dial back the opacity just a little bit. And then we can start to kind of pull some different colors out here. Maybe this gives you some ideas. Just lower the opacity of the airbrush so I can sort of blend these two together a little bit better. Yeah, cool. Kind of like how that's looking. But I'm still not stuck here because I can always go through and change colors again and just try some different things out here. And I'll play with this for quite a while a lot of times and just see what pops up. Dang. Alright, I kind of like that. That's kind of nice. Now, let's say that I want to adjust the colors on this yellow area a little bit and still give myself the wiggle room to go back and change things later. What I can do is create a new layer and then tap on that layer and select clipping mask. And what that's going to do is it's going to make this layer only able to apply color to what's in the layer directly below it. So I'll select something like this pink color and a soft airbrush, and let's see how that works. Cool. Alright, so we'll go a little bit more pink with this part. I like that. Let's take it even more red. Nice. Okay. And I still have the ability to turn that on and off and even adjust it here until I like the colors. Something like that's kind of cool. I dig it. All right, and what more could we do? Now we can go back and we can adjust our values layer and start to put some highlights back in that we didn't think of to add before. For example, I can go in with just that soft airbrush kind of set to a small setting. And now we're just on the values layer. You can see how this works. Let's try some little highlights here. Kind of cool. It's really bringing out some really interesting colors here. Okay, so one final trick here. What if we want to add a cast shadow of this flower onto the surface of the paper or the skin? So one easy way to do that is by selecting the area around the outline, like this. Go to automatic selection and just select everything. All right. And then we just want to choose invert. And so now we're selecting everything inside. And underneath everything, let's make a new layer, put it underneath everything, and we'll call this the shadow. Now, how do we get the shadow in there? Let's deselect reference from the lines, so we're not looking at that line layer anymore, and we'll just pick our dark shadow color and we'll drop it in. Excuse me. Let's do it this way. Let's make all of these lines and colors and everything invisible, so all we see is our selection. And now, oops, gotta be on this layer. Okay, there we go, finally. So even I struggle with this from time to time, but we've got our shadow dropped in now, and if we turn all of this stuff back on, we shouldn't be able to see that shadow at all, but we know it's there. So once I deselect that, I can select the shadow and we can move it where we want it. Right? But let's take that one step further. What if we, instead of just moving it, we use warp here under the transform tools, select warp, and we can start to pull the shadow out and put it where we want it. So right, maybe it's a little bit closer over here, and maybe it pops out a little bit there. Maybe we want that a little bit, but a little bit further away. Kind of like how that looks. Right, maybe something like that. Okay. And now I want to make that shadow a little bit blurry, okay? So I'm going to head over here to the wrench. Now let's look under the magic wand. We're looking for Gaussian blur. Tap on this and then hit the screen, and you can see the percentage of blur is going up. So just find what you like. I think it's going to look pretty good a little bit lower. Probably something in the range of like maybe 8%. Dig that. Now I'm thinking maybe this shadow looks a little bit too dark, so I have two options. I can tap the layer with two fingers and slide my finger across to lower the opacity of the shadow. Or I can go over here and select the hue, saturation, brightness, and I can change it there, which would still allow me to sort of mess with what color the shadow is too, and I can dial that in. So let's say I want kind of a cool gray there. Just something like that's working for me right now. Okay, so now I think I'm just about done here. I'm really happy with everything that I've selected, and I'm ready to take this over to Matt and see what he thinks. All right, Matt Truiano, thank you so much for joining me and doing this. You know, when I had the idea to color in this flash design that you created, it was really just because I wanted to show off some of the techniques that I use in Procreate, some of the things that I use to help me get from line drawing to finished color study and value study really quickly. And I've seen your videos on Instagram. It looks like you already know a lot of these tricks too. So maybe that's where we'll start. You know, what is the power of using Procreate or some kind of digital process for you? Like, how did you sort of arrive at this?
So it all came down from knowing that me as an artist, I take way too much time designing my pieces. And before I even got an iPad, I wouldn't even consider doing a color version of my drawings because it was just out of the question. It was just going to take way too time to hand color every design. So I would just give my clients a drawing, maybe a little bit of light shading to kind of give an idea of what it might look like, but color was just not an option. And then when I realized how fast you can move with digital works, and especially Procreate, it was a no-brainer. So one of the easiest things to do is just to make your line drawing a reference layer, and then you can just literally drop color right into it and fill whole fields of solid color super
Mm,
fast.
definitely. Yeah, that's one of the main kind of hubs of what I was teaching in this video too. And it's one of those things where like no matter how many times we say it, no matter how many times we try to teach it, like I'll just be in my shop and watching some artist struggle and just trying to color things in the hard way. And it just, always hurts my soul. And I want to sit
Yeah,
down and, teach them the thing right then and there so they have the skill forever. So, I think I'll probably have to keep showing this one technique over and over and over again before, all of our peers finally get it. But it's like the most important time-saving thing that you can possibly do.
there's a lot of times too where I'll just drop color in and make it very flat just to give my client an idea of where color is going to be balanced out.
Mm,
And then I don't even necessarily always shade it all, but just to have some sort of color on the image, it really
hmm
is super helpful for everybody.
Yeah. Even, going from just line drawing to a value study, right? Like if people will start taking that one step before they start tattooing, that I think has the biggest impact. Like how do we guide the eye where we want in the design and how do we make sure it's a high contrast image that stands the test of time? And if you don't have that value plan, sometimes you kind of end up in a problem, right? Where you're like, oh, I decided to put black here and I decided to put black here, and now we don't have contrast anymore.
Yeah,
So,
that's a big mistake that I've learned how to solve by
mhm.
doing digital images pretty fast.
I haven't actually focused on neo-traditional style
Mhm.
in quite a while. I've been doing ornamental tattoos and large scale three-dimensional tattoos. And, sometimes I do illustrative tattoos, which I kind of define as more like taking a realistic subject and putting outlines on it and sort of idealizing the color instead of doing it, realistic. I'm thinking about how do I make this more like a tattoo? How do I make this, follow the rules as I understand them of what makes a tattoo hold up over time, so on and so forth. So, for me sitting down and working on this design that you created, it's a little difficult for me to know if I'm sort of hitting the the stylistic points that sort of make it truly Neotrad. And so, since I think you have an expertise in this style, I thought maybe we could talk for a little bit about what it is about my design that you perceive as not being right for this style. Maybe that's a good place to start. I can put it up on screen here.
What's funny about that is I was just having a conversation on my podcast, Honest Tattooer, with John Mesa. We had Bobby Johnson on and a couple other guys at the same time.
Right. I was
We were
just listening to that. Yeah.
we
I
were
was thinking about
talking
bringing that up.
about we were talking about Neotrad as a genre and how so many different styles fall into like this larger umbrella term now. So I don't even know if there is one definition of what makes a Neotrad tattoo neo-traditional. I think it's very subjective now, but I could definitely tell you what I think, like how I feel it would have looked if I would have done it, and that would be
Sure.
helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. I would love to hear that. What do you think about the treatment of this highlight around the tops of the petals? Would you say that that's kind of a good fit for the style or no?
Yeah, I think that's perfect. So I feel like there's a few ways to go about this kind of folding over pedal like that. I think you nailed it exactly how I would have done it too,
Hmm.
having kind of that like that ring of highlight. I think that's perfect. Another way that I've seen people do it, and I've even done it myself, is to make everything super flat and just have almost like an edge of highlight at the very tips of the pedals.
Mm. Yeah. So everything in the petal is one flat color, and then
Mhm.
there's a empty, untattooed bit around the edge. Is that what you're
Right.
saying?
Yeah,
Okay.
like very a very traditional way of doing it.
Right.
Um, but a way to avoid that from being traditional to neo-traditional is sometimes to put a color slightly colored than the color of the pedal in that highlight.
Okay, so if we're just gonna flat fill that with red, that would be like, okay. And then I think you were describing that we would erase out the edge,
Yeah, I mean, you can
perhaps.
either erase it out or just paint in like a crisp edge.
So if I take this color and then choose something lighter and warmer,
Yeah, I wouldn't even go
that be
that
what we're
warm. I
looking
would
for?
even go a little bit more on the pinker side. Yeah, something around there. That's cool.
Okay. Yeah, something like that maybe.
Yeah.
So just real quickly, it seems like what you're describing is something like this kind of effect.
Yep. Exactly.
So yeah, that's actually a really, really easy approach, right? And then I imagine you might have a little black shading in this area.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
what
Or
I
like
would do to
darker
take
red.
this. Yep.
Hmm. What were you gonna say?
What I would do to take it a little bit further is you can even take your smudge tool and at the very beginning, yep, where that dark is kind of overlapping into your highlight that you just made,
Mm.
kind of smudge the very beginning of that so it blends into that lighter tone from the beginning, like where the petal's coming out from the center of the flower.
Are you saying this?
Yep. Yeah,
Well, that
go
was
the other
ugly.
way so the red goes into it.
Oh, so the red goes into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks good.
Yeah, so you have a little bit more of a transition there.
Yeah, that's slick. Now, when you actually tattoo that, how do you approach it? Like from a
So
technical
I'll
perspective?
solid fill the entire red, and then just where that's going to start the transition, I'll just whip
Hmm.
that out,
Hmm.
and then slowly add more of that pink color into it. Kind of similar to how you probably do like your realism pieces where you're blending colors.
Yeah. So your approach is entirely technical, solid packing as you do
Yep.
all of this, and you just
Yep.
save this little bit, keep it empty, and then you
Yep.
bring out that color and you do you put this in with a mag or do you put it in with like a round shader?
It depends on how big of an opening I keep,
Hmm.
but usually a mag.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, so I'm guessing if I go to look at your work, I'll probably see this all over it, huh? It's like pretty much a hallmark of your approach, right? Not just in petals, but in other things as well.
Yeah, I do it. I do it a lot. Yeah. I try to keep every piece somewhat unique. I don't always do every flower the same, and I don't do everything the same, but it's definitely a part of my bag of tricks that I've got.
Right. Cool. Well, that's helpful. What do you think about the amount of actual black shading that I have in here? Do you think it's enough?
I think it's good from what I could tell. I think one of the things that's making this feel more illustrative than Neotrad is the amount of colors that you have.
Oh, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
because one of the things I ended up doing in this process was I just had a value study for the
See,
leaves.
actually, take off that green layer right there.
Yeah. So
Just,
I had a value study and then I added, well, I had this one layer, right, where I did a an overlay layer and just picked a color. Um so, this is where I really like to be, I like to color everything with one simple color and then move this around until I like it. But, once I did that, I was thinking, man, I really want to introduce a secondary sort of green in an
mhm.
easy way. So all I did was just duplicate that layer and set this one, I think, to multiply and then change the color to something else.
Okay,
Let's say like that. And then I came back in with a soft eraser and kind of played with it until I liked, what I was getting,
I see.
which, kind of was something like that.
Yeah.
Right. And so and then I just moved these two layers colors around until I was like, yeah, there it is.
Got it.
Um, but that's how I got there. Um, but yeah, like I was thinking that too, like maybe this is too much, a little bit too much razzle dazzle with color to really hit the style. It's almost a little bit too fancy.
It's like a little too new school. It's like leaning a little towards
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
The way that you had it before, were just kind of like that golden color. I felt like that was tits right there.
Yeah, just the one simple color. Yeah.
Yep.
It's going to take me a while to get back to that, but I
Bada boom.
think it was like that. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And so maybe,
Yeah.
and so I'm thinking looking at this, I'm thinking maybe the stem needs to transition into a different color, but is that just me trying to be too fancy again?
I think so. I think that looks fine.
Okay. All right. Cool. So here's another place that I kind of went a little nuts, like
Yeah.
I was like, um, yeah, how can I just make this more interesting? Because my first instinct was to keep it simple and just fill everything with yellow. I started messing around with it and started liking this.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Um,
that's what's cool about it. There is no wrong way. It's just whatever you think
mhm,
looks good or whatever you feel great about. Uh, for me, what I would have done, I would have taken that whole thing from that stem to all those little balls all the way to the tip, just make that one gradient. And
mm,
from like where you have it coming out from the center
yeah,
down the bottom, I
yeah.
would dark and then just lighten it all the way up to the very top to almost white and just keep it one color, just a gradient.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. I wonder if I can do that real quickly. Let's see. Now I know I have yellow set to overlay. If I just switch that to normal and then take away that,
Even a
then
solid color looks good too.
yeah, so that's the solid color version.
Yeah.
And then the gradient version would be like, let's add this layer set to clipping mask. That's good. Let's choose the yellow. Now we've got yellow over here. And are we just going to go towards green with it, or do we want to shift towards orange so it becomes more brown? What do you think?
I think based on what you got going on already, maybe go towards brown.
Well, it's almost like the same as this color.
Yep.
Do I just need to use that color?
Maybe. Yeah. I
All
think the
right.
fewer colors that you use, the better.
Yeah. So a bigger airbrush. And you said towards white as well.
Yep.
So just take that, shift it towards white.
Yeah. Just work off the tip of there. Yeah.
Cool. Well, there's definitely fewer colors now.
Yeah. Maybe
Let's see.
what would that look like if that was instead of a yellow undertone, if it was a little bit more orange, how it would be in real life.
So I'm just going to duplicate that one so I can get back to it.
Hmm.
I'll combine these two together and then, all right, so it starts to get really
Gets
close to the
lost a little
same
bit, right?
colors as the petals.
Yeah.
Let's see. It might work in this green realm, but I don't know if that's true to how it would normally be on a plant. Isn't this the best way to figure out the answer though? I mean, because if you're just in the moment in the tattoo, you're like, fuck it, I'll just try this, and then you're
Yeah.
stuck with it.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, I think that
Yeah,
might be the way to go. Maybe even not having it so dark because you have the dark red and the black, maybe just keeping it more lighter like that. There you go.
yeah,
That's a little bit
yeah,
more
yeah.
contrast.
More intense. We could go,
Hey?
yeah, because this is kind of a neutral color here. There's no
Yeah.
like pureness in it. So if I take this all the way to an intense version of more like caramel to yellow,
Yeah.
I feel like that kind of
It looks
works.
good.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah.
Oops. All right. So what do we think of the overall design now? Do we like the cast shadow or
I don't.
take it
I don't
away?
like it. Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like the cast shadow again makes it a little bit more new school, which there's
Hmm.
nothing wrong with it. Just if you're going for the Neotrad style, I don't know if that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
What often you would see with Neotrad is either some sort of just black or gray shading, just kind of like a, I don't know, feathering it out in the background,
Mm,
just in a couple of spots, or
let's try it
just leave it alone.
there. And then soft airbrush. Maybe set this to multiply. Yeah, that looks more natural, right?
Yeah.
So where are we putting the gray? Just kind of in this area, maybe?
Yeah. I would go like
Too
wherever,
much? Is it too much, too dark, too light,
Might be too much. Might be too much. Maybe
too big?
remove it from where you have the blue showing right now. Maybe ignore that spot and just maybe put it in the spots where you have like these crevices, where you have like these
Oh
triangles
yeah,
between petals and
here.
between leaves. Yeah,
Yeah, right. Yeah. So maybe it's here,
maybe a little bit. Yeah,
and then maybe it's here
yeah,
and there.
yeah, yeah. I don't
So
think you need much. I think that looks good.
that's without it, that's with it.
Yeah,
And this is just a soft gray wash, right?
yep.
Okay.
Or you can stipple it too. Sometimes I do that,
Okay.
which I feel
Yeah.
looks really nice.
This could easily be someone's neo-traditional style, right? Like even if it's not the way you would do it.
Totally. Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody can do it their own way, which is
Yeah.
why I actually really like this idea.
Hmm.
I can't. What I really enjoyed about the last set that I put out is people would tag me in the tattoos that they would do from my set,
Mm.
and sometimes it looked like I would have done it, and then sometimes it's just like it completely blew my mind. Like, man, I wouldn't have never thought about doing it this
Yeah.
way. Just taking my design that I already had a plan for and having it seen in a different color and different like value
Right.
shading. It blew my mind sometimes.
And I'm glad you brought up the idea that people are doing these tattoos that you create for these flash stamp sets, right? Because
Yeah.
going back to the conversation I just heard on the Honest Tattooer podcast that you did recently, there was a conversation about plagiarism in tattooing and, how we're supposed to decide what is morally ethical or correct and how we're supposed to progress as artists through different stages of our career. So, you know, judging on past experiences that you've had being an artist that is really copied heavily, how does it feel when people actually copy you in an ethical way and purchase your flash and go out and try to do things the right way? Or I don't know, just what do you have to say about that?
It's so different when you're designing something with the intended purpose of other people using it. When people do use it, it feels really good. It makes you feel like, oh man, I did something right that people enjoy and they're willing to spend money on and use it for their
Mhm.
final product. So that makes me feel like I did something right. And I love it. I love seeing all the people who tag me in the tattoos that they've done that I've designed. But on the other side of that, when I do a custom piece for a client that I'm drawing specifically for their needs, and then somebody rips it off, it's like a stab in the heart. So
Right,
I used to get pretty mad at it, and I used to get really bummed out. But at this point now, I just kind of let it roll off my shoulders, and I was like, it's going to happen. And I try to listen to all the people who say that just the imitation is the greatest form of flattery. So I try to keep thinking that and just remembering that I'm doing something that other people like and are willing to get tattooed on them also. But
right.
it is a bummer. It definitely is a bummer.
The last set that you did with us, the Truiano Neotrad, it's just full of all different subjects of Neotrad tattoos. And then, I'm sure it has some flowers in it as well. But talk to me about this process that you're in right now of creating these designs and kind of where are you in the process right now and how's it going and you know is it good? Is it driving you crazy? Are you just stressed out? What's going on in your world?
No, I think that this is probably one of the easier projects that I've been asked to do lately.
Hmm.
And a lot of it has to do with it's funny too, because you even mentioned before, you were like, I don't want to have a set where it's just, somebody traces a flower, puts like a heavy outline in it, and then calls it a day. Like you want to have a more
Hmm.
stylized version of it. And sometimes that is what I'm doing. Sometimes I am just tracing the flower, but then I'll lighten that traced layer and then draw over that and make everything a little bit more exaggerated and more stylized.
Right.
So it's a pretty easy process, at least for me, to be able to translate the original shape to a new shape. Because
Hmm.
sometimes with Neotrad and even just especially traditional tattooing, it's simplifying the shapes. So a lot of the times with petals that have a lot of curves or a lot of jagged edges, smoothing that over, or just making things align a little bit more fluid. that's kind of where I find the joy in doing it. So it's not stressful at all. I actually enjoy taking a complicated piece and making it a little bit more easy and pleasing to the eye. So we're doing 50 flowers. I have about 30 of them planned out, at least either to a refined sketch or at least the very basic rough sketch.
Hmm.
And my plan is to have all of them in more or less the same stage of design before I start cleaning it up and putting a line drawing to it. So I'm pretty much, I would say like I'm 70% done with the project
Sweet.
at this point. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I've loved seeing the few that have come across my desk so far, including this one that I ended up coloring in for this demo. So I'm excited to see what you're going to come up with, and I'm
Yeah.
sure people are going to get a lot of use out of it.
I hope
Especially
so.
combining it with your other set and with other sets that we have, and just kind of mixing and matching things together to make the whole initial layout process of a tattoo easier. Killer, man.
Speaking of which, I did a tattoo based off of this new set. It
Okay.
was two cherry blossoms on a client of mine.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah.
yeah, it got pretty good positive reviews about it. So I think we're heading in the
Awesome.
right direction with this.
Cool. Yeah, I saw your post on that, and people are already reaching out, going, "Hey, where's the Matt Truiano set?"
Oh,
I
nice.
saw it on Instagram. When's it coming out? So, we kind of do know when it's coming out, roughly speaking, but it's going to be at least another what, like month before your part is done, right? What's the
Uh,
deadline?
Kind of, yeah. February
Yeah.
15th. So it's January
Yeah.
27th now. So we got a few weeks before my deadline's up.
Yeah. Well, once we get it back from you, then it takes us a few weeks to get our shit together, but
Right.
it'll be soon. And hey man, well, hey, this has been really fun. I hope that people watching learned something. I know I certainly did, and I'll try to make more videos like this in the future. If you're not already subscribed to our channel, go ahead and hit subscribe and ring the bell and all that fun stuff so that you don't miss the next video. And be sure to start paying attention to the Honest Tattooer podcast that Matt does with John Mesa. These guys have a new podcast every single week. What day is it? Sunday?
It
What
comes
what
out
day
on
do you
Mondays.
comes out on Mondays? Matt's working tirelessly to get that thing out every week, and I think it's been going on for a year now. And I've been
Yep.
listening to every episode now for the last few months. Really looking forward to the new ones that drop. So thank you for all that you do, Matt. And go follow Matt Triano on Instagram. Follow Honest Tattooer. Anything else you want to drop,
No, that
Matt?
was good. I appreciate the acknowledgement of the hard work that I'm putting in. It definitely is a lot of work that I do, but I love doing it, so I'm happy to do it.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you. Thanks for joining me today, and
Thanks
we'll
for
see you
having me.
guys soon.
All right. Bye.